Can you guys hear me now? I just hooked up the microphone. Can you hear me now? Yes. What about now with the microphone? Can you hear me now with the microphone? Yes, perfect. Thank you. You can hear me? I'm taking this mic off. Okay, microphone off. You guys can hear me loud and clear without no microphone, right? Let me get a yes in the chat one more time before we get started. Can you hear me loud and clear? We hear you. Thank you, Top Notch. Welcome. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Mandy. Okay. I was just giving everyone a minute to join in. Yes, thank you, Sylvina. Okay, you guys, welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. I had a little bit of a break, but during that break, I was coordinating some speakers. So today, I'm excited to bring on this upcoming speaker who's going to discuss with us changing your major and pivoting in new careers and still being able to succeed no matter if you have to start over again, no matter if you have to start over within a new career path. Pivoting, we should not be afraid to pivot. So that's what today's topic is going to be about. And obviously, we're going to learn more about her overall background, education wise, professional wise, and some of her professional development activities that she's a part of, which is always important to learn about what are other people doing within the community. So, Office Hours with Dr. Johnson, welcome. We're going to bring up the guests now.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Sylvina, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, let me put up the volume 1 second. How are you doing, Sylvina?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us and have this meaningful conversation. Okay, hey Mandy, I see you join back in again. Okay, so first off, before we get started, this is Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. What is the base behind Office Hours with Dr. Johnson? I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to give back to those who consistently poured into me, and I wanted to make sure I was including other people who are big in their community, who are consistently doing great work, and who are also not afraid to pivot. And that's what the topic of tonight's conversation is going to be about, pivoting into new careers and not being afraid. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Sylvina. Can you just give us a brief introduction of yourself and then education background and professional background, but don't go too much into all your pivots because that's going to be the next question. But just a brief of who is Sylvina and education and professional brief synopsis.
Brief synopsis. Who am I? Well, I'm Sylvina V. That is my internet persona. I do keep my internet and my professional very separate. If you Google Sylvina V, that's very different from my real name. Um, I am a part of many organizations. I do assist in professional development. I also assist high school students in moving on through their life, through networking and what that looks like through different programs. Um, I have a background in HR and a background in training and development.
Nice. Okay, so that's going to bring me into the first question. You said you work with students in like professional development overall. What would be some advice you would give either to a student or somebody going back to school who's unsure of what to do and where to start? How would you help them? What
Um,
would you advise?
it depends on where they are in life. So it's like I normally tell like high school students that is the time to try everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, join chess club, book club, photography club, whatever it is, because as children, You can say, "Oh, I want to be this," but you've never tried it. You don't know what it looks like. You have no real concept of what it takes to do it. Now, once you've done it, it's a lot easier to say, "Oh yeah, I want to be a photographer because I picked up camera before. I really enjoy it," as opposed to saying, "Oh yeah, I want to be a photographer," and you've never done it. Then you start and you hate it.
Mm-hmm.
As an adult, it's a little different. It requires time,
Right.
which you have a little less of when you're an adult.
Yeah.
So it really takes a different type of effort. The best way I think to do it is to join different associations. You don't necessarily have to join, but if they have open events that's open to the public, going in and talking to those people who have the experience that you're trying to gain helps.
Mm-hmm. True, that's true. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the gifts, Mandy. Mandy just sent you a gift too, Sylvina. Thank you for the gifts, Mandy. Thank you. Yes, we do have a goal, and for those of you joining in, don't forget to grab your daily heart meal. Jumping into the next question, you mentioned some professional development. How important is it for you to participate in professional development and different trainings overall?
I am a lifelong learner. I like learning. I like reading. I'm interested in those things.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it is very important. Even if you don't necessarily have a degree, furthering your education is important.
Right.
With that being said, I have done different programs over the years, and there are also things that I have self-taught or self-paced myself to do.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have an IT certification.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of thrown at me, and I was like, oh yeah, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little bit of experience there. I can have conversations with people around IT and what that looks like. I also have a cosmetology certification. I'm licensed in 2 states. When it comes to hair, I can have those conversations from a scientific standpoint and not, oh, the girl closed her bookings. It's a different conversation with me as opposed to someone else. I recently got my bachelor's in HR management.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I also am part of National Black MBA Association. Now, you don't necessarily need an MBA to join, but being around people who have their MBA or are in different places in the corporate space is important to me. You can learn from them. And I'm also a part of National Sales Network. Those are salespeople in different sectors of the sales encompassing. They're not car salesmen, but they do sell things that people typically need. So with that being said, I do think professional development is important. On National Sales Network, I'm actually on a board member of theirs, where I actually am in charge of putting together the learning and development. I'm the VP of learning and development for them. Nice. So, it is important to further your knowledge on just everything around you. You can't say, oh, I don't know what's going on if you haven't self-educated to a certain extent.
Right. Right. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. That was going to be my next question. The importance of not only just participating in these professional development organizations, but actually having a role in them. What does having that role within those associations you're part of do for you professionally?
Professionally, it puts me in touch with people I wouldn't necessarily be put in touch with. National Black MBA Association, I'm also on the board for them as the director of LOT, which is Leaders of Tomorrow. For that organization, I went to conference. The first time I joined, I was entered into a raffle and I went to conference for free. They were just like, as long as you can pay for your hotel and your flight, you can go. I went. Right. And I was able to, people within, like, pretty much hiring managers and make connections I wouldn't otherwise have if I was a part of that. You're able to get in front of people and make connections you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. You meet them in real life instead of on LinkedIn. That's the best way to say it.
Right. So pivoting into our next question, those of you just joining in, thank you for joining. Don't forget to grab your daily heart meal, and thank you for sharing the live. Anita, thank you for sharing the live. Thank you for the gifts, Mandy. Hey, Adriana. Hey, Black Girl, say something. Welcome in. Welcome in. We are speaking today with Sylvina, a professional pivoter. Sylvina, a professional pivoter. Okay, and that's important. Sylvina, on one of our recent conversations with somebody else I had prior, they shared their why. With you pivoting so many careers, can you kind of shed some light on what is your why overall? Your overall why?
I would say I have to say my overall why is me. I only get one life and I have to live it. So, I might as well take everything that I can, and if it's going to propel me into the next step, and that requires a pivot, I'm going to do it. The pivot isn't the why. The pivot is more the how. The why is me. And I'm going to choose me.
Right. I like that. So back to college, back to being a student, and you're also a recent student yourself too. Can you shed some light on changing your major and still thriving in college? Because there's this narrative that, oh, don't change your major, don't change your major today, so don't change your major. You're halfway through, or shed some light on changing your major and still thriving in college. What can you say about your experience on that?
I recently had a conversation with somebody about, especially on the younger side of things, and even when people are a little older, about people not necessarily being prepared for college to begin with. Right? They have it in their mind, I want to be a surgeon, but no one's ever put them in science camp, math camp, surgery camp. They've never shadowed a doctor to know if that's something they like. Turns out they're bad at math and science. Their reading scores are low, and they're having a hard time. It's less about changing your major and more about being more prepared going in. Changing your major isn't bad if you're changing it and it's beneficial to you. In my bachelor's, I changed my major early. So I had my associate's degree out of high school. I went high school. I got my associate's degree at the local community college. And then I went to ODU, but I ended up dropping out. I was doing marketing, but I ended up dropping out. Life took a crazy turn, and I couldn't do school anymore. So I was just like, I only did a semester. Let's just drop out. At the time, that did work for me. I pivoted into something else. It did work for me. I was able to pivot into IT. I found a program that actually paid me to go to class to get the certification.
Nice. Okay.
You know, so it worked. Whereas if you're changing your major like multiple times, and it's only a problem for your wallet, it's not really a problem in general. That's the real tea. The problem, it becomes a problem if it's like you're restless. If it's like you feel like you have to change it 2, 3, and 4 times because you get into these places, and once again you're unprepared of what it requires. I think we should have more conversations about what the education actually requires and play to people's strengths, as opposed to, hey, yeah, I dreamt about being this, but I suck at science.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, I like that. Back to the student perspective. You said you recently graduated. So as a recent student, how is your overall current experience or overall experience within the current political climate that we are in now? Hence, our current government, they're affecting, I'm trying to choose my words wisely. Our current government, it's affecting some programs at colleges overall statewide. So, as a recent graduate, how was your experience as a student
Well, I went to a self-paced university. It is accredited. So always make sure you're going to an accredited school. I know people, you'll see these commercials for different schools and things like that. As long as your school is accredited, people will take it serious. When it's not accredited, companies and businesses will not take it serious. As far as the current climate, this climate is both political and economical. And because of that, it puts us in a weird place. This is new territory for everybody. The job market is absolutely insane. So the things that I would fall back on to pivot into new spaces, right now it's not working. But what I do know is furthering my education in this current climate can help me pivot once this is over. Because my education will follow me if I move to another country. I cannot guarantee, if I don't have the education that I have, that my experience will follow me, because they don't have the same rules that we have here in the US. That is the difference between having a degree and just having experience. Just having experience doesn't work everywhere else. Because a lot of times in these degree programs, there is a global class, a global component. For example, I had to take global HR. So let's say somebody did say, oh, we have an entry-level job here in Germany for an HR company. I could do that. But if I didn't have a degree to fall back on to say, hey, here are my credentials from this and this school, I can't walk up to the people in Germany and be like, just hire me. That's not, it doesn't work like that if they require a bachelor's. They have a different set of rules.
Right. Makes sense. Um, with your HR experience, and I'm sure this, I'm going to have this question again upcoming, but with your HR experience, what are give us two myths you can debunk? Two myths that you can debunk when it comes to HR, either within the resume or within the interviewing process. What is two things on from your HR experience? What are two myths that you could share with us to debunk overall?
I wouldn't necessarily know what myths are out there. I can honestly say I took an HR degree because to me, the fact that I wasn't getting the job right away wasn't making sense, and I need to get behind that. I
Mm,
am very goal oriented in the way that I do things, the way that I look for jobs, the way that I do everything.
mm-hmm,
So these are not necessarily myths to uncover, but they are truths that everybody should take with them.
right.
Federal law will always trump state law. So if
Say that
somebody's
again.
asking you
Say that again.
crazy questions
Say it again.
in your interview, that is grounds to sue them.
Mm-hmm,
You got to call the EEOC and let them know, hey, this person in my interview is asking how old I am. Or this person is asking, how many kids I am, if I'm married. They're not allowed to ask you those types of questions.
mm-hmm,
Those are invasive. Like
mm-hmm.
I get they're getting rid of DEI,
Right,
but those federal laws technically to this day have not changed.
right.
There will be a lot of lawsuits that come into play because of these things.
Mm-hmm,
So federal always trumps state. People get sued double time because federal and state does sue people on behalf, like they sue companies on behalf.
mm-hmm,
There is the EEOC website that exists where they literally post companies that have recently been sued for different things.
mm-hmm.
Now, the trauma that goes into that, horrendous. I get it. It can be crazy to go through something with an employer because you spend more time there than you do at home.
Right,
So that is something to keep in mind. If it don't feel right, write it down.
right,
Look it up. You
right,
can look things up. They're not hiding, but you do have to look.
right,
Whatever employee handbook they have to go by that. It's not like they have an employee handbook and they're like, oh, this is a suggestion. They have to abide by their employee handbook. So whenever I get a job, I read that thing front to back to front.
mm-hmm,
Something don't seem right, I go to HR, I say, hey,
mm-hmm. Something ain't
it's not
right.
in the book. It's not in the book.
Right,
They're telling me I have to do this, but it's not in the book.
right,
Or if it's against the law, your job cannot make you do nothing that's against the law. That's also against the law.
right.
The second thing would be, let me see what else. Write down everything. I know
Okay.
people say that, and it's like, oh, what do you mean by that? If an incident happens and it makes you uncomfortable, write it down and put the date.
Right.
Document
Right.
the date that it happened. If there are 3 incidents of the same type of thing that happened, you take that little notebook with the things, you take it to HR. I know people are like, oh, well, HR is not my friend, but you have to report it.
Right.
If you report it and they do nothing about it, you call them people.
Right.
You can call the EEOC. You can
Right.
call a local law office that deals in employment law.
Right.
That is a thing. You let those people know, hey, I'm dealing with so and so at work. They told me these things. How would you guys like to proceed? You do have to be careful. They do not like those trigger words. They don't like bullying. They don't like harassing. Like those words, like if that's happening,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to be very specific in the verbiage you use.
Right. Right. I like that. Call them people. Write it down and make sure you're reading. Hey, Joy, and make sure you're reading your pamphlets, reading your documentation, reading your job description.
And make it very technical. This is exactly what happened. Don't put no fluff, no salt and pepper, nothing.
Right.
This is what happened. This is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I responded. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put, oh, because it made me feel like this. If it made you cry, you can put that it made you cry, but like don't overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mix up the story. The story needs to be the same every time.
Right. Right. That's true. Thanks for sharing that. Previously, I had a professor and I had a student. They were just talking about the overall student experience and how that can affect their mental health. You're a recent graduate yourself. Can you just touch on what were some best practices that you did when it came to your mental health as you were completing your educational program? You know, it can be stressful, it can be up and down. What were some of the things that you did to ensure that you stayed sane?
I exercise. That's kind of my claim to fame.
Hmm.
I do like to work out,
Hmm.
stay active,
Hmm.
still do the things that make you happy because you will lose your mind.
Yeah.
My program was self-paced, so I did do 10 classes in 4 months.
Hmm.
Was that probably that bright for my mental health? No. But did I need to finish? Also, yes. Um, so sacrifices can be made. Just don't sacrifice yourself so badly.
Right. Right. I like that. Speaking of sacrifices, what would you say to a student who is not receiving the proper motivation from their either peers, friends, or family as it relates to going back to school and following their dream? What would you say to a student who's experiencing that right now? Because I've had quite a few students.
I like this answer, but
Wait.
I'm a very self-motivated person. Don't worry about what them people got to say.
Okay.
They can't take your classes for you.
Okay.
They can't enroll for you.
Right.
Half the time you get that student loan check, they not paying on it for you.
Okay.
So if this is something that you really and truly feel in your heart of hearts is going to work out, is something that you really want to do,
Hmm.
just do it.
Right.
You can find support in other places.
Right.
Find an organization of people that are doing the same type of thing you're doing. Surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
I like that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Overall, as it relates to motivating current students, bringing it back to the current climate we're in right now, as it relates to motivating current students to, hey, stick it through, get your degree, don't worry about what you're hearing in the job market, even though the job market may be rocky right now, what would you say to those to keep them motivated to, hey, continue your college degree and don't just find a job and work your way up. You will always have your degree to back up on. What would you say to those who are kind of feeling iffy about, hey, if they're not even hiring anybody right now, why am I getting this college degree?
Because eventually they will. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the first downturn. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't the first time people have had a hard time finding jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was hard to find jobs before
Mm-hmm.
and nobody was hiring and everybody's getting laid off left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Every time there's a downturn, there's also a up. There are trends in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just like there are economic slumps, there will be an economic boom. That's why they say don't pull your money out too early when you invest in the stocks.
Right.
Don't do those things because eventually what goes up has to come down and it'll go back up again.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well stick it out. You're already a little more than halfway through.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Last question before we wrap it up. What would you say is your first step in figuring out, okay, I don't like what I'm doing right now. I want to try something else. I want to pivot into something else, but I'm afraid. What would you say is the first step?
Um, Being scared isn't really an option. However, a book that I can recommend to kind of steer. I just read it. A mentor suggested it to me. It's called "What Color Is a Parachute?"
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of creates these different activities where you have to literally write out your experiences, the type of work that you've done, what transferable skills that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it also makes you choose on what you're good at. It has like different quizzes in there to decide what kind of profession would be best for you,
Mm-hmm.
based on like your personality, things that you enjoy, things that you like.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that, I think, would be the first step because it's like, yes, you can hate where you are, but do you know where you're going?
Right.
If you don't have a clue where to go next, yeah, that can be scary. I can get that.
Mm-hmm.
But doing activities like that can help so that way you have some sort of direction. With no direction, you're just like, damn, I hate my job, but what am I going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be a good start.
Nice. I like that. Also, just bringing it back to HR, because I know I did prior to this, I did have a lot of HR questions. Would you recommend somebody do an HR certification, or would you recommend them do a full program, like a full human resource management program? Do you think they will learn the same skills and resources and tools overall?
I'll put it like this. I recently had an interview for HR specialist position. Because I just got my degree, it is entry level.
Mm-hmm.
When I asked them, and this is a question I typically ask in interviews just to know where I stand with the interview before I leave, I
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, is there anything about my resume or the conversation that we have had today that would make me not suitable for this position?
Right.
And that lady said, the fact that you do not have a bachelor's degree. That was for my first interview. By the time I came for my second interview, I said, I'll be done by the time I come back for my second interview. I just had my second interview yesterday. And she was like, oh, did you finish? I did.
Right.
Okay. So, yes, having a certification can do it, but will it suffice instead? Probably not. Now, if you have some sort of degree, even if it's not HR, and then you get an HR certification that comes with some sort of test, it could probably allow you to do that. So like a career pivoter, somebody that had their bachelor's, their master's, their doctorate, and they decide, oh, I want to go into HR. And they go and get an HR certification as opposed to an HR degree. That could work because they're already degreed.
Makes sense. I like that. Well, Sylvina, thank you so much for spending the time with us to shed some light on HR, shed some light on pivoting into various careers and making sure that you're putting you first and you're making all these decisions for you. Last question. How did you get into hair? What made you want to be I don't know if you're sorry for a license, but what made you get into hair overall? We were talking about student experience, we're talking about HR. Let's talk about
hair. It was a free class in high school. I have been licensed for over a decade now. It's actually time to renew again. It was a free class in high school. I did it my sophomore and junior year. By the time I was a senior, I was working in a salon already. It's a job to fall back on. Right. I am a fan of working certifications or working degrees. We do need more plumbers, more electricians, licensed hairstylists. I mean, I have no beef with kitchen hairstylists. I just feel like when you have a certain level of education, there is a science component to it. You know, certain things to mix versus what not to mix. Right. Those things are important. You learn those in school. The test is hard. If depending on where you get your cosmetology license from, some tests are harder. I got mine in Virginia. Okay. That's a Commonwealth. They require way more hours than somewhere like Florida. There are certain hair supply stores that you can only get into if you have a license. You cannot go in there and say, oh yeah, I do hair sometimes. Can I get that? Right. They will not allow you. Right. The same bleach you buy at Sally's to make your hair blonde is not the same bleach I buy. It's two different things. So when people get into arguments on the internet about doing hair, I shut up because I have my license.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So I don't get into conversations that, you know.
I like that.
People with licenses, they know certain things you can do, certain things you won't do. You do learn professionalism. You do learn booking things. You do learn that, you know, yes, you may have to turn clients away because of the quality of their hair or if they've done something that they're not supposed to do to it. So that was just something that kind of fell into my lap.
Okay, nice. And most things that we pivot into normally fall into our lap or our interests overall. Yeah. Before I let you go, you know I'm big on education. I'm big on furthering education. You say what you feel comfortable with, but can you share with us, do you have any plans going forward, higher education, or what's next for Sylvina?
Oh, I'm supposed to start my master's degree in July 1st.
Oh, nice. Okay, and what are you going to be getting your master's degree in?
MBA, a master's in business with the concentration in technology.
Nice. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, Sylvina, thank you so much for taking the time to come on over with Office Hours with Dr. Johnson. Hey, Ina. Hey, Marcia. Thanks for joining. Hey, Joy. Thanks for joining. Mandy, thanks for sharing the live. Thank you for liking the live. This was a great conversation. Thank you for the heart meeting. I love speaking with current students or recent graduates to get their experience overall. But what made yours unique was that you are a pivoter. And I have multiple videos where I'm discussing, don't be afraid to change your major. Don't be afraid to change careers. And you've done that. You've done hair. You've done technology. You've done human resources. You've done curriculum development. So you guys, it can be done. This is proof. It can be done. Do not be afraid to change your major. Hey, Miss Nene, do not be afraid to change and pivot into something new. There are a lot of people like Sylvina out there who are doing it. Once again, Sylvina, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate all the gems you dropped on us. Can the people follow you if they have any questions or concerns? Can they follow your page and hit you up if they have any HR or pivoting questions? Because this is our professional pivoter. That's our nickname. Sylvina is our professional pivoter.
I mean, sure, they are free to reach out to me on TikTok. I do keep my things separate. So if you hop my DM and you have a very serious question, I might direct you to the LinkedIn where I'll give you my real name. But don't be weird. That's all I request. That is all I request.
Nice.
That's it. Don't be weird. That's it.
Don't be weird.
Don't be weird. That's it. Because people do. It is the internet. I keep mine separate because my Sylvina V. That's where I have fun. If you look on my page, I'm just a girl having fun. I just live here on this rock where I have to pay bills. That's it.
Right.
But in my real life, I am very involved in the community and I do a lot of things. I post to LinkedIn a lot. So if you reach out to me directly, I will lead you to the resources that I have that are in my reach.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sylvina. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and sit down with us. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody in the chat appreciates it. Before Sylvina goes, can you guys just drop in the chat a congratulations? She just graduated with her bachelor's degree in human resources. Can I get a couple congratulations before we disconnect? I'm big on giving people their flowers. I told her congratulations. Can I get a couple congratulations in the chat? Thank you, Mandy.
Oh, thank you, Mandy.
Perfect. Thank you. So once again, thank you so much, Sylvina. Make sure you continue to have a great day and please keep in touch.
Definitely will.
Or if you need any promotion on whatever professional organizations you are a part of, okay?
I definitely will. I'm sure we have events coming up and I'll let you guys know.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me disconnect you so you can get your points, okay?
All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much for you guys being here. This was very informative. Once again, I want to shed light on those who are interested in changing your major, who are interested in pivoting into new careers. Do not be afraid. You only have one shot. And what can you lose? And look, we have Sylvina, our professional pivoter, who's done it all. I'll repeat one more time. Hair, IT, human resources, and I know she's also done some professional development and curriculum development at her previous employments. So please do not be afraid to pivot. Please do not be afraid to change your major. It can be done. You only get one you, and you only get one chance to do what you like. Okay? So you guys stay tuned. I have a couple more office hours with Dr. Johnson scheduled for the remainder of the week. They are some great folks. They are some familiar faces. So stay tuned. Once again, thank you for joining, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.